Week one of the fantasy football season, and it's hard to believe it's here already. And here's a few running backs I look to start here in week one. The first guy, Leonard Fournette of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Leonard Fournette had a good season last year before he went down with injury towards the back end of the year here. And Ronald Jones, he's out of town. He's with the Kansas City Chiefs. And he's the man back there in the backfield. I know there's reports they're trying to lower his workload a lot. But when push comes to shove, he's going to get 25, 30 touches a game with rush attempts and catches out of the backfield is Leonard Fournette. And he's got a good matchup here, week one in Fournette at the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. So Fournette here, solid number one running back, I believe, this season. If you went wide receiver 1 and Fournette 2 in your fantasy drafts here. And like I said, he could catch the ball out of the backfield, 60, 70 catches. At least I think he could get this season here. And the Dallas Cowboys, they're vulnerable to big physical running backs. And I think he carves up in this one is Fournette. I think 100 total yards and at least 1 touchdown in this one. And obviously you drafted him early in your drafts and you got to start him. But obviously this is a plus matchup is why I'm mentioning Fournette. So like I said, he's going to have a good ball game in this one versus the Dallas Cowboys. 100 total yards at least and finds the end zone at least once. The next guy's James Conner of the Arizona Cardinals. I was surprised Conner went 3rd, 4th round coming into the season in many fantasy drafts. I know last season it was a little far-fetched that he had 18 total touchdowns as Conner, but right now, no more Chase Edmonds. I know they're big on Eno Benjamin, and I know Conner's had injury concerns throughout his career, especially in his Pittsburgh Steelers days, but right here, it's going to be a classic shootout in week one with the Chiefs and the Arizona Cardinals, I believe, in this ball game. And Conner, he could catch the ball out of the backfield. Last season, I know only 37 catches, but now with Chase Edmonds gone, he's going to get more of the passing attempts as well out of the backfield here as Conner. So Conner, he's a good running back, no doubt about it, when he stays healthy on the field. And like I mentioned here, Kyler Murray, he's going to have to trust Conner a little bit more, especially with DeAndre Hopkins suspended the first few weeks of the season here. So now Conner, I think, gets more of a pass roll out of the backfield. And this ball game is going to be a shootout. So Conner, we know he's going to get all the goal line touches. We know he's going to get a little bit more in the passing game, even with Benjamin, who's a decent receiver out of the backfield. And week one versus Kansas City, it's going to be a shootout. And I think Conner has a big ball game. And a running back I would start this week. The next guy's Antonio Gibson of the Washington Commanders. So Gibson, he fell a lot in fantasy drafts. Brian Robinson Jr., he was going to be the starter, but then he got banged up off the field, if you know the story, what I'm talking about. But anyway, Antonio Gibson, I know he's had fumble issues the last couple seasons. I know he's on special teams unit in training camp, but he's the last man standing as a full 3-down back here, even though we know J.D. McKissick will be more the 3rd down back than Gibson this season. And week one, he's got a good matchup versus the Jacksonville Jaguars is Gibson here. So I think Gibson has a good ball game. I think people have written him off, and he's going to try to prove those people wrong as well. And the Commanders, let's be honest, this offense isn't scary at all, and they're going to need the running back game. They need running backs here to keep this game close and to keep Washington in time of possession. Carson Wentz, I know, is their starting quarterback, but he's bounced around now over the last few seasons, and he's more of a game manager than a guy that's going to put up big numbers. So Antonio Gibson, still one of their better playmakers on this offense, besides Terry McLaurin, obviously. In a week one with a good matchup versus the Jaguars, I think he surprises people and has a good ball game, and is a number 2 running back or a flex option this week. He's definitely a guy I would start. The next guy is A.J. Dillon of the Green Bay Packers. So A.J. Dillon, I think, might have a better season than Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones in a lot of fantasy drafts went 2nd round, and his ADP was just ridiculous, though, in terms of rankings and where people were taking him. But A.J. Dillon going 4th or 5th round in many fantasy drafts here. He's a guy that last season he put up over 800 yards rushing and even caught the ball 34 times as well. So like I said earlier in my quarterback start video with Rodgers, some of the running backs, they're going to have to step up a little bit, catch passing out of the backfield. Obviously, with Devontae Adams out of town, that's a 200-plus targets that's got to be fed to somewhere else. And I think A.J. Dillon is going to be a good change of pace back, but also a guy who's going to take short yardage work as well here from Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones just wasn't healthy last season. I don't know how much he has left in the tank here. And Dillon is your number 2 running back is perfect, I think, this week here. And it's going to be a shootout with the Vikings and Packers. So right now I would have confidence for sure going into this week with him as my number 2 running back, or a flex option is A.J. Dillon. And I think he could have at least 12 to 15 fantasy points here in week one, and the fifth and final running back I look to start this week here is Eli Mitchell of the San Francisco 49ers. Eli Mitchell last season, he came out of nowhere with San Francisco, and the injuries are the thing that held them back. But when this guy's healthy, he puts up numbers and he could do it all. He could pass protect. He could catch the ball out of the backfield. Last season, 19 catches, but he had over 960 yards. And like I said, they cut a lot of guys over there in Frisco. Hasty's gone. Trey Sermon they already gave up on. And now it's pretty much Mitchell and Jeffrey Wilson Jr. as the top two running backs. So with a good matchup at the Bears here in week one is a number 2 running back on your roster. I think Mitchell has 100 total yards and possibly finds the end zone in this one. And he's a perfect number 2 running back to start this week. So that's a few running backs I look to start here already in week one of the fantasy football season.